What's going on, everybody? This is Andre here with Camera Review Pro. In this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the photos taken by a Sony a6400 and the photos taken by an iPhone 13. The Sony a6400 is a very popular and well-regarded camera with tons of great qualities and the versatility to be used in many different types of situations. So how do the photos and videos taken by this camera stack up to those of the new iPhone? Well, we're about to find out. Now, before we go any further, I do want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. But with that being said, let's get into the video. So the photo on the left here was taken by the Sony a6400, and the photo on the right was taken by the iPhone 13. Both of these photos do look really professional and high quality, but in comparison, there is a little bit of a difference here. On one hand, the Sony a6400 is a lot brighter and has much stronger lighting, but on the other hand, the iPhone 13 photo has much more vivid colors and details. Now this is an interesting one. These photos look almost the same in so many ways. On the left, once again, we got a photo taken by the Sony a6400, and on the right, we got the photo taken by the iPhone 13. And like I said, these photos look really similar. Both of them have extremely vivid details and colors, and they look really sharp and professional. The one thing I would say though is that the Sony a6400 once again has better lighting in general. The photo is brighter, whereas with the iPhone 13, the photo is definitely not quite as bright. And in this case, that prevents it from looking quite as good as the Sony a6400's photo. In this photo, we're seeing pretty much the exact same difference. On the left, the photo taken by the Sony a6400 does look really professional, really nice, but you notice here the lighting is super bright and the colors are not quite as strong as the photo on the right taken by the iPhone 13 that has much more vivid details and colors. But on the other hand, the photo taken by the iPhone 13, like most of the other ones so far, is not nearly as bright as the photo taken by the Sony a6400, and in my opinion, I personally think it's just a little bit too dark. Nothing that can't be changed by a good photo editor, but at the same time, comparing raw photo to raw photo, I do think the Sony a6400 has a little bit of an advantage here, because although the colors and details aren't quite as vivid or strong as the photo taken by the iPhone, the lighting looks a little bit better, and in my opinion, this is a little bit more important. Now this photo is actually somewhat of a different story. We continue on the pattern of the Sony a6400's photos being a lot brighter than the iPhone 13's photos, and at the same time, the iPhone 13's photos having stronger and more vivid colors and details than the Sony a6400. But this time, the Sony a6400's photo looks really overexposed versus the iPhone 13's photo, where I think the lighting is pretty much perfectly balanced. Now with this photo, it is a really close one, but whether or not one is better than the other is really going to depend on personal preference. On one hand, I do think the Sony a6400's photo on the left looks a lot more professional and natural. The background is perfectly blurred in the way that we see the subject as the main focus of the photo, and while the details and colors aren't very strong or vivid compared to the iPhone 13's photo, it has a nice, appealing, and like I said, really natural look to it. On the other hand, I think the iPhone 13's photo looks a lot more interesting because once again, the colors are really bold, the details are much more vivid, and overall the picture just looks more cinematic. I feel like these pictures are different enough to the point where they have completely different applications. For example, if I were taking stock photos or something like that, I would definitely want to use the a6400 because I'd want a more natural, normal look that represents exactly what I'm seeing. But on the other hand, if I'm taking portrait pictures for social media or something like that, I would definitely want to use the iPhone 13 because the iPhone 13's photos have more of a cinematic look that's more likely to capture someone's attention. With this photo, we see pretty much the same exact difference. On one hand, with the Sony a6400, first of all, the photo looks really bright, much brighter than the photo taken by the iPhone 13, and it looks really natural. The details aren't very vivid or anything like that, and the colors for the most part are pretty average looking. But on the other hand, with the photo taken by the iPhone 13, It's not nearly as bright as the photo taken by the Sony a6400. It's not dark to the point where it's actually a fault of the picture, because I do think it still looks really good, but at the same time, there's a lot of contrast in this photo, and the details and colors overall are much more vivid. Now with this photo, once again, same kind of thing. On the left with the Sony a6400, we get a really natural looking professional photo that has a great contrast between the subject and the background. Everything in the background is really blurred out, whereas the subject is really sharp and the details look really professional. With the iPhone 13 photo on the right, this really looks like something out of a movie or maybe some sort of photography album. We see really cinematic effects, dramatically vivid colors and details, all that sort of thing. Both pictures look great in my opinion, but they have completely different purposes. On one hand, the photo taken by the Sony a6400 is perfect for professional purposes. If you're taking stock photos, nature photos, some sort of professional type of activity, this picture would be great. But on the other hand, the colors and details are a little bit on the dull side. But with the iPhone 13, this is the complete opposite. The iPhone 13's photo has really vivid details, really strong colors, but at the same time, I would not use this for a professional purpose. It looks way too cinematic, but at the same time, with the aesthetic the iPhone 13's photo has, it's definitely going to catch someone's eye if you're using it for more of an entertainment-based purpose. So now that we've gone over some photo samples, let's take a look at a quick video sample. We're going to start with a video shot on the Sony a6400 and then move to a video shot on the iPhone 13. So I noticed a couple significant differences between these two video clips. The first one is that with the Sony a6400, the video was really overexposed versus the iPhone 13 where the lighting was pretty much perfectly balanced. Now this could work in the favor of the a6400 if you're shooting a video in more of a lower lighting setting, but in a setting like this where it's really bright, even with auto exposure on, the iPhone 13 is definitely handling the lighting a lot better. Now the second difference here is one of the real bummers with the Sony a6400, and that is the Sony a6400 doesn't have in-body image stabilization. Now this makes a huge difference when it comes to stuff like vlogging, where you're moving around a lot and it's a really active type of video. In that case, the iPhone 13 is going to have a huge advantage, but one time where the Sony a6400 is going to have an advantage is for a talking head type YouTube video, when you're inside in potentially lower lighting and the camera isn't going to be moving around a whole lot. This is because the a6400 picks up a lot more light than the iPhone 13 in general. So as a result, you're not going to need as much intense lighting inside as you would with the iPhone 13 in order to get a clear image. So in conclusion, which of these devices takes better photos? I would say it's not really a matter of which one is better than the other, because honestly, both of them are pretty much at the same level in different ways. On one hand, the Sony a6400 takes much brighter photos and in general captures a lot more light than the iPhone 13. In addition to this, photos taken by the Sony a6400 tend to be a lot more natural looking, and this really makes the a6400 ideal for stuff like stock photos and more professional things like that. Another area where the a6400 is going to have a huge advantage is, like I talked about when we did the video samples, indoor YouTube videos where the camera is pretty much stationary. This is because since the a6400 takes much brighter photos and videos, you're not going to have to be as extreme with the lighting in order to get a good image. Now on the other hand, the iPhone 13 has a huge advantage when it comes to making things look interesting because of all the vivid details and colors that you see in its photos and videos. In addition to this, the iPhone 13 is of course much more portable than the Sony a6400. So this is also going to make a difference when it comes to stuff where you're moving around a lot. I do think because of this and the image stabilization the iPhone 13 has, I would definitely much rather use the iPhone 13 for vlogging than the Sony a6400 because it's so much more versatile. In addition to this, of course, more cinematic types of photos are going to be a lot better with the iPhone 13 because of all the details and how vivid the colors look. So as a general rule of thumb, if I'm doing something professional like stock photos, real estate photos, something like that, I would use the Sony a6400. And if I'm doing something more entertainment based, like social media photos or something like that, where you want to grab someone's attention, then I would go with the iPhone 13. But at the end of the day, both of these devices, while having strengths suited for completely different purposes, take really great photos and videos and definitely provide a lot of value. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And as always, I will see you in the next video.